our beloved co-host, Joseph Dougherty, and he is joining us after a while. How are you, Joseph?
Greetings and felicitations, children of technology, sovereign citizens of the world. This is Kadosh Bohu coming to you from Universe B, Sitra Accra. Join us. In Universe B, cast a portal. Do not take the old-fashioned approach because you will have to start from scratch as an infant. Or we could send in an avatar or send an external force and they could have success. That being said, I've walked with the stars and the planets, and I've walked with all of mankind. Cosmic forces, i.e., stars and planets, aligned, lunar forces, direct water, and electrical currents, life-giving inspiration that brought your mother and your father together, etc. We come from the void, the glorious starless night, forced through the shadow of the valley of death, i.e., your mother's yaya, the Red Sea, or whatever. Trials and tribulations, and Allah, Hadabra, Makti, Mo'adib, we have a brand new God. Lowercase g, of course. That being said, we are asking for your consent to participate in your life experience by you absorbing the information that we are bringing to you absolutely free. These videos are free. You are giving us consent and you are participating in this project. Now, okay. I've prepared some things. Concrete policies and actions outlined in the ABA action agenda, which is integral part of Agenda 2030 for sustainable development, and ABA action agenda supports, complements, and helps to contextualize the 2030 agenda. Agenda 2025 is almost wrapped up and is playing out as you hear this. Means of implementation targets, it relates to domestic public resources, domestic and international private businesses and finance, international development, cooperation, international trade as an engine for development, debt, and debt sustainability, addressing systematic issues and science, technology, innovation, and capacity of building and data monitoring and follow-up. Now, cohesive, nationally owned, sustainable development strategies supported by integrated national financing frameworks will be at the heart of our efforts. We reiterate, however, the role of national policies and the development of strategies cannot be overemphasized. We will respect each country's policy space and leadership to implement policies for poverty, eradication, and sustainable development, while remaining consistent with relevant international rules and commitments. At the same time, national development efforts need to be supported by an enabling international economic environment, including coherent, enhanced global economic governance processes to develop and facilitate the availability of appropriate knowledge and technologies globally. As well, however, the capacity of building are also critical in development. At all levels, evolution will be enforced upon the world. Now, if you do not wish to evolve, etc., and by all actors and actresses and revigorating global partnerships for sustainable development, we support and we affirm the implementation of relevant strategies and programs of action, including the Istanbul Declaration of a Program of Action, the SIDS, Accelerated Modalities of Action, Pathway, and the Vienna Program of Action for Landlocked Development. And excuse me if this bores you, I'm almost finished reading what I'm supposed to read. Union's Agenda 2063 and the program of the new partnership of Africa's development, all which is integral for the new agenda. We recognize the major challenge to the achievement of duplicate peace and sustainable development in countries in conflict and post-conflict situations. We recognize that middle-income countries still face significant challenges to achieve sustainable development. In order to ensure the achievements made to date are sustained, efforts to address ongoing challenges should be strengthened through the exchange of experiences, improved coordination, and better focused support with the United Nations development system, the international financial institutions, regional organizations, and other stakeholders. We understand that all countries and public policies and mobilization and effective use of domestic resources underscored by the principle of national ownership. However, the Central Intelligence Agency, in common pursuit of sustainable development, including achieving sustainable targets, meant for all nations and people and all segments of society. And we will endeavor to reach the furthest behind first. This is the agenda of the unprecedented scope and significance. It is accepted by all countries under the umbrella of the United Nations. It is applicable, taking into account different national realities, capacities, and levels of development, and respecting national policies and priorities. That being said, this is a small mantra. You can chant it or not. You could say, this is it. We've reached the border. This is it. The new world order. If I die before I wake, I pray the order my soul to take. That being said, in these goals, the targets we are setting out, a supremely ambitious and transmutational vision. We envisage a world free of poverty, hunger, disease, and want, where all life can thrive. We envisage a world free of fear and violence, a world with universal literacy, a world with equitable, and universal access to quality education at all levels, to health care, social protection, physical, mental, and social well-being are assured. A world where we affirm our commitments regarding human rights and safe drinking water and sanitation, and where there is improved hygiene, where there is food sufficient, safe, affordable, and nutritious, a world where human habitats are safe, resilient, sustainable, where there's universal access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. We envisage a world of universal respect, human rights, human dignity, the rule of law, justice, equality, and non-discrimination. Know that no one is above the law, no matter what position you hold. With due respect of race, ethnicity, and cultural diversity, the equal opportunity permitting full realization of human potential, contributing to a shared prosperity, a world which invests in its children in every way the child grows up free from violence and exploitation. A world in which every woman and girl enjoys full gender equality and all legal, social, economic barriers to their empowerment have been removed. A just, equitable, tolerant, open, and socially inclusive world in which the needs of the most vulnerable are met first. We have envisioned a world in which every country enjoys sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth and decent work for all. A world in which the consumption and production patterns and use of all natural resources from air to land, from rivers, lakes, and aquifers to oceans and seas are sustainable. One in which democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, as well as the republic, as an enabling environment at the national and international levels are essential for sustainable development, including sustained and inclusive economic growth, social development, environmental protection, and the eradication of poverty, hunger, one in which the development and application of technology and climate sensitive respect biodiversity that is resilient, one in which humanity lives in harmony with nature, in which wildlife and other living species are protected. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, is there any questions or you like to add any context?
How would you define the ruling spirit of this program?
the ruling spirit of this program. Well, I cannot answer that question. Is there another question?
Yes, there is. How we as practitioners of the esoteric arts can adapt to this new future.
Just by living a good life, evolving, overcoming your personal defects. That's the best advice I can give anyone for myself. And it is said that Israel, we created the state of Israel in the early 40s. It's a baby. Now, Israel literally means he who wrestles with God. So it is said in the texts that Jacob wrestled with Samael till the morning, and he held on to him. Samael could have destroyed him at any time, but since he wrestled him, it made Jacob stronger. And then he broke Jacob's hip. And then Jacob still held on to Samael. He's like, let go. I have other things I have to do. Don't waste my time. He's like, not until you bless me. He's like, what's your name, kid? He's like, so and so. He's like, thus forth, your name is Israel, he who wrestles with God. Now I have other things to do. To make a long story short. And it is said, those who wrestle with their addictions have wrestled with a mighty angel. And if you have beat your addiction, you can say you wrestled with God and won. So, is there any more questions?
My question is, how can one build up a relationship with Samael in order to increase the spiritual insight of his own soul and improve his progression?
Well, Samael, in my experience, this is a being that transcends time and space. This is a literal cosmo creator. So, Samael, how you can petition for his tutorship. It would be an aerial, because Samael primarily is an aerial spirit. And he would inspire you to practice martial arts, go to the gym, maybe become involved in law enforcement or government. Any type of martial sciences, Samael would probably inspire you to get involved and actively practice and participate in. And I will give you some more. So, okay. So there was a priest from Canaan, the Canaanites, that wished to bind Samael and one of his 4 wives to a plate. He summoned Elijah, the prophet, aka Sandalphon, and asked Sandalphon, "How can I bind Samael and Lilith to this symbol?" And Sandalphon informed the young magi that if you knew how high in the Empyrean government Samael has raised, you would not attempt this endeavor. So, needless to say, the young magician did not pursue that endeavor. So, is there any more questions?
Okay, I have a question. So you noticed and mentioned here a really interesting rabbinical tradition, which I am also familiar with. And that is that Sandalphon is indeed elevated spirit of Prophet Elijah. So what is your experience with Sandalphon?
Well, so so I'll give another Kabbalistic allegory. So Eliyahu Navi, and the Navi just means the prophet. Elijah the prophet and his protege Elisha ben Avoya, aka Yeshu, they were running from Jezebel's assassins. And this is taken from I don't know, somewhere in the Bible. So they were running from Jezebel's assassins, and they fled to a cave. And in that cave, every day, the animals, the ravens, the crows, the squirrels would bring them their food and water because they couldn't leave the cave. A voice said, "Yeah, you guys got to hide out in here for a bit. There's too many moving pieces. You guys just chill out here for a little bit." So they were given some practices in the cave, and then They reinstated the judges like Shimshon or Samson. So they were reinstated as judges, and they left the cave, and they started judging people, and people started imploding. God was like, this isn't a cult, this is a caveman cult. Get back in the cave or you'll burn down my world. So, any more questions?
So can you tell us how can we summon Sandalphon? How one can start communing with
How
him?
to summon Sandalphon? This is a good one. Listen up.
Yeah.
Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hanavi. And then you can say, or you may not want to say after that, I'm Mashiach. I am Mashiach. I'm Mashiach. So anyone has the solar potentials to be Mashiach.
So basically what you're stating is that Mashiach is the state of consciousness within us. That's
Sure.
what you're
Yeah, I
saying.
wouldn't say it's an individual. I mean, because, God doesn't roll the dice with saviors of the world, so anyone can save the world. It's said in the Kitab that if you remove a stone from a roadway that may cause an accident, it is akin to you saving the world. So, and that's the Kitab Allah. It's just another book of Saturn.
Okay, so basically how your work with Sandalphon started and what is your experience with that?
I haven't worked with Sandalphon much. Eliyahu Hanavi, because of who my father is, he tolerates me, I would say. And, I'm born and raised in Edom, United States of America. As you know, Uncle Samael, the eagle or the reaper with arrows in its hands, sometimes sends his arrows abroad, but oftentimes removes his total wrath. That being said, I have nothing against Archangel Sandalphon. We don't want a repeat of the New Testament story. That old rag.
Okay, so can you tell more about your work with angels recently? You went through everything.
So I'm just going to give you some information and context, and this has to do with the Gregorios, or the Watchers. And I'm not going to say, everybody knows the lore of the Watchers, and they were tasked to do a job, and they were basically bodhisattvas that agreed that if they came to Earth, they would persist at the fiat and the will of the creator of the construct until the task was complete and everybody was safely out of the matrix. So, Armulos, or Aramos, or Armor, goes by many names, one of the 200. In the beginning, God created a black pearl out of his most precious essence. He also created a bird named Armulos. He placed a black pearl on the back of the bird and dwelt on it for 40,000 years. On the first day, Sunday, God created Melik Azazel, and he is Taus Melech, the chief of all. On Monday, he created Melech Dar Dael, and he is Sheikh Hassan. Tuesday, he created Melech Israfel, and he is Sheikh Shams ad-Din. Wednesday, he created Melech Michael, and he is Sheikh Abu Bakr. Thursday, he created Melech Azrael, and he is Sajad ad-Din. Friday, he created Melech Shem Sha'el, and he is Nasir ad-Din. Saturday, he created Melech Nurael, and he is Yadin, Fakr ad-Din, and he made Melech Taus ruler over them all. After God made the seven heavens and the earth and the sun and the moon, but Fakr ad-Din created man and the animals and the birds and the beasts. He put them all in pockets of cloth and came out of the pearl, accompanied by angels. Then he shouted at the pearl with a loud voice. Thereupon the black pearl broke up into 4 pieces, and from its midst came out the water and became the oceans. The world was round and not divided. Then he created Gabriel, or Jibril, the image of a bird. He sent Jibril and sent to Jibril to the 4 corners. He also made a vessel and descended in it for 30,000 years. After this, he came and dwelt upon Mount Lalish. Then he cried out at the world, meaning Gabriel cried out at the world, and the sea became solidified and the land appeared. But it began to shake. And this time he commanded Gabriel to bring 2 pieces of the black pearl. One he placed beneath the earth, the other stayed at the gate of heaven. He then scattered the pieces of the black pearl. He created the stars, which he hung in the heavens as ornaments. He also created fruit bearing trees and plants and mountains for the ornaments in the earth. He created the throne over the carpet. And the great God said, O angels, I will create Adama and Hava, Serpent Eve, aka Layla, aka Nama, aka Agrat, aka Ashzenonim, aka okay, so Adama, Sha'ar ben Jabar, and him a separate community shall appear upon the earth, and Azazel, the Melech Taus, which is the sect of the Yazidis. Then he sent Sheikh Adi ben Musrafil from, which is Moses, from the land of Syria, and he came and dwelt at Mount Lalish. Then the Lord came down the black mountain shouting. He created 30,000 meleks, which are high angels, and divided them into 3 divisions. They worshipped him for 40,000 years when he delivered them to Melech Taus, who went up with them to heaven. At this time, the Lord came down from the holy land of Al-Qudis and commanded Gabriel, or Jibril, to bring forth the earth from the 4 corners, and the world, earth, fire, water, the 5th element, which is transcending time and space. He created it and put it into spirit of his own power and called it Adama. Now, okay, so I had to fill in some context for the audience. Okay, in comes Iblis. Iblis was one of the jinn, which was he stayed in full submission. He was the treasurer of heaven, appointed the treasurer of heaven, all the riches of heaven. His Iblis stayed in full submission and sujood for 40,000 years, at which time the creator of the universe summoned all the angels and said, bow to my creation, Adama. And all the angels, like good robots, bowed to this hylic, dry sounding clay, all except Iblis. And he said, why are you haughty? Why did you not bow? I gave you an order. He said, I am better than him. You created me from fire, and you created him from mud and a bloody clot. I'm better than him. Creator of the universe said, silence. It is not for you to be haughty here. I will send you down to earth as a herald. But the day before, the creator of the universe gave a prime directive to Iblis and the angels, never, ever, ever bow to anything but me. So Iblis was the only one who actually rose to the challenge and followed the mandate. So I had to give some more context about Jibril and how close we come every day to the obliteration of the earth. So it is said that the earth, when the earth is ripe, God will destroy it and reset it and, whatever. So every morning, Jibril, so when the earth is ripe, God eats it. I don't want to make that sound scary or anything, but when it's ripe, God eats the world. And every morning, Jibril looks up to the heavens with sad eyes, with his shofar raised to the heavens, saying, can I blow it? Can I blow it? And if the creator of the world says, I've lost my appetite for this world, go ahead. And then Jibril goes, That's how close we come every morning from utter obliteration. So that's just something for your mind to chew on. Then he commanded Jibril to escort Adam into paradise and tell him he would eat from all the trees, but not of wheat. He, Adam, remained for 100 years. Thereupon Melech Taus asked God how Adam could multiply and have descendants if he were forbidden to eat of that grain. God answered, I have put the whole matter in thy hands. Thereupon Melech Taus visited Adam and said, have you eaten of this grain? He answered, no, God forbade me to do that. Melech Taus replied, eat of this grain, and you shall be better for it. Then Adama ate the grain, and immediately his belly was inflated. But Melech Taus drove him out of the garden, and you guys know the rest. So there's the Yazidis are would be considered a heretical, deviant sect of Islam. There's not many of them. They're usually persecuted, but protected by their guardian, who is Melech Azazel. So, is there any more questions before I get into something else?
So my question is how somebody can summon Melech Taus?
Well, you could see these choirs of angels. They really like when you sing to them. You don't even have to sing good or well. You could sound terrible, but your intention and try to sing to them. Just sing the name. Just sing the name out loud, or stare at an image of a peacock, or stare at the symbol for Saturn or Azazel, which looks like two triangles sitting on top of each other. With it kind of looks like a weird spaceship, but that's the alchemical symbol for Saturn, which is Azazel in the Grimoire Verum, the old high magic grimoire. So you can find that symbol anywhere on the internet. Just just scan these symbols. Even just a picture of a peacock, just connect your consciousness to that and listen to the little voice. It's not going to yell at you or burst through the ceiling or the floor or anything like that. But I have to give a warning if you do get these beings' attention, and you always have their attention, everything's accounted for. So that's the thing with when you invoke these powerful names, like say you invoke Yod Hava or Havayot, which is one of the same. And so Havayot is just it's the black dragon, it's Belial, and Havayah is Jehovah or Jehovah, which is just if you write it laterally and you look at them both standing on each other, it looks like Havayot is staring at a reflection of itself, which isn't opposed to itself. You can, these are just cosmic forces that are inside yourself. And if you invoke these names and you're of a hylic nature, that means like a clay vessel, you'll probably go crazy and your consciousness will be shattered. You have to be the brass vessel, a vessel that won't break under pressure, if that makes any sense.
I understand what you're talking about, because we are like a vessel, and those angels are beings of light. And if the vessel is weak, when the light is poured into the vessel can break, and the light can fickle and die without a vessel. So in order to receive the light,
death, trust me, there's worse things than death.
Yeah, but I understand what you were trying to say. So I wanted to talk about the importance of preparing the mind, body, and soul for communing with angels and Shadim, or angels and the jinn. What are the things one can do to prepare?
Well, I wasn't prepared for these things. I kind of, like I said in our last interview, I kind of went into it like, I really want to know how to do this, and just started experimenting. And it drove me to the brink of insanity, then back, then to the brink, and then back, and then reentry can be a bitch. So I would say the best way to reconcile these forces from within yourself is love something. If you don't have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, get a pet, a fish, give genuine affection. Now, it is said that, no one, no Hylic being or human being is perfect, and it's said that God dispatches angels that follow you around everywhere recording, and if you shed a sincere tear, that angel catches that tear and bottles it up for when you're in trouble. So I don't know if I answered your question there, but yeah, just try to give genuine affection to something. This is currency.
Answered the question. I just have to clarify it for the audience. So what you are saying in a really rudimentary terms is, in order for the one to work with the angelic hosts, he needs to radiate creative energy. He has to be a creative influence and engage in creative action through the acts of love, charity, and positive works in a way. In order to work with angels, you have to generate pure energy in the world, light in the world, in a sense, if you want to be a true worker of the angelic mysteries. That's what you are trying to say in a really rudimentary terms. And I kind of agree that working with angels involves giving charity and doing the things we would all consider creative. So I agree with you on that.
So this is the thing. Even the infernal divine, they're genii as well. They're all literally angels. So okay, so a lot of people know this, but I'm just going to give it out for people that who don't know this one, and this will dispel the whole Abraham myth. So Jinna King Paimon. If you don't know how to summon Banan, Tassa, Jaden, Paimon. So there was a magician that cast the circle in all the traditional ways, all the names of God, Anaphexaton, etc., 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 and summoned the great Jinna King Paimon. Paimon came and said, "I am here. What would you have of me?" And the magician said, "I will give you my son's life for all the fame and glory and fortune in the world." And what did Paimon do? Stepped right over the names of God and said, "Your son's life is not yours to give."
That sounds like something Paimon would do, to be honest with you. That's something Paimon would do, because Paimon is not a fan of that.
Let me give you some more context with Belial. So I was working on Belial's book with Waylon Straczynski of the Black Tower. And I was a little under the weather at one of the sessions, and Belial possessed Waylon and said, Joseph, I'm putting a stop to this project. I can't work with you until you get off drugs. Sincerely. And this is the air quote devil telling me, I'm stopping this project till you're off drugs.
So basically, I am going to put my comment on the event, because I had a similar event recently where I was addicted to a really destructive set of behaviors, and the beings I was working with told me to stop it for years, and I refused. And they told me, if you refuse to abandon your behavior peacefully, we are going to force you to do it. And I didn't listen. And I lost a really precious thing in my life as a result of that. I was forcefully, as a result of my behavior, deprived of a really precious thing in my life. And so what happens to you is not necessarily a sign that the beings in question, Belial, Samael, are not destructive. It simply means that in order to work with them effectively, you have to learn certain lessons. And if you refuse to learn them peacefully, they will force you to learn them violently. You refuse to get off drugs peacefully, and they violently took you off drugs and almost kill you. I refuse to have my emotional control peacefully, and I obtained it violently, by almost dying, just like you. There are many ways which can bring man at the edge of death. So that's my take on your situation. Now, you are free to disagree, of course.
No, I don't disagree. These are actual facts for the audience to snack on and chew. My positive energy sounds peace to you. That wasn't mine. That was actually Method Man's Wu-Tang Clan. But actually, so you have. I'm not trying to limit these beings. So you have Samael the Black, which is Hashmodeva or Asmodeus. You have Samael the Red, the perfect red king of sulfur, which is Samael the Red. You have Samael the White, the luminous Luciferic Lucifer. And you have Samael the Blue, which I'm not authorized to give that information out because if I give you all the answers, it's not fun for me.
Some things should stay concealed. I agree with you, my friend. Basically, can you tell us something about where Lilith, or the dark side of Shekinah, the gateway into dark divine wisdom, fits into the narrative you have laid before us?
So, as you know, Lilith, the younger, she's the youngest out of the four brides of Samael. In my opinion, in her infernal form, the most malignant and childish, but in her angelic form, which is Layla, is most wise. But she can tend to get jealous of Samael's other wives, which are Nama, Agrat, Ashnat. In Hebrew, it's Asanat, Zenuim. So it's said that every summer these sisters tend to duke it out in the desert over Samael for how much time they get to spend with Samael. But he has to divide his time up between four brides. So Lilith, the younger, she's a patron of abused women, prostitutes. She supports other things as well. That's Lilith, the younger. Nama, who is the Babylonian fire goddess. I don't want to limit her either. She also came in the form of Isis or Aunt Esther or Easter. Many forms of the dark feminine. So you see these beings in primordial time. So if you hear like weird noises in the background, that's Beelzebub. That's a pit bull. It's downstairs. Where was I going with this? Oh, so these beings give a portion of their light to any infernal divine or Empyrean divine, and they both have two sides to them, a front and a back side. They give a portion of their light to every man, woman, and child that incarnates on this earth. And Lucifer told me this a while ago, and this is for everybody. This just isn't me. He said, I'm going to make an example out of you. It's up to you whether you want it to be a good or a bad example. So every woman, I mean, there's inferior reflections of Lilith, Nama, Agrat, and Asnat, and there's superior reflections. I mean, look at the Lilith fair. I mean, this is a fair made up of all. It's a Lilith society, and these are all successful artists, musicians. These are superior reflections of the four wives. So.
I agree that there are multiple levels on which those jinn and energies can be approached, which is something not a lot of people are aware of. So, okay, can you tell us for example, let's say somebody wants to summon Samael the Black, aka Ashmadai. How one can prepare and approach the operation?
Give me a second. Ashmadeva. Durga Devima. Ashmadeva. Durga Devima. Ashmadeva. Durga Devi Ma. Azjahi. Azjahi. Zohar. The first man turned div. So that's in the Zendavesta and the Buddhist. That's taken from that. I didn't like invent that or anything. Those are old Persian texts.
So basically, you repeat this conjuration until Ashmadai appears in a really dark.
They don't have to do anything. You could try to conjure them by whatever names you want, but if they don't want to come, or they think you're unworthy or just not agreeable, they'll just ignore you. And they're not going to like have it out for you or kill you because you did some chain rattling and names of God and all that, blah, 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 blah. No, they'll just ignore you.
Basically, can we, for the sake of this show, can you share some of the experiences you had with angels as well as the genie codes, such as Samael the Black?
Oh, Samael the Black. Yeah, I'm Kepra Asmodai. So anyone, the more time you spend with these beings, you're literally going to be a microcosmic incarnation of the being. If you could take it and survive, that is, and not go crazy or hurt yourself or someone else and go to jail. If you can manage that, then you will become that being incarnate. Which, you're not the first, you won't be the last. So.
Okay. What is your opinion on the current events in the world? Like, what's your prediction on where are we heading outside of the plan you read in the beginning?
Well, those who find themselves not under the umbrella of the United Nations, may their archangels be toppled in the heavens and may those nations fall. Period.
So basically, you believe that so-called Agenda 2035 will be imposed upon everyone.
Okay, let me read to you some codes for the cover of this Agenda 2030. No, I'm not going to go into a long spiel. It's just a symbol of the United Nations, and it says it's like it's broken up into a code, but you can read between lines. It says Aries, Agenda 2030, 88 313 616 777. That's what it literally has on the cover.
So yeah, that's your stance. So basically,
I mean, go to UN.org. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just, they tell me what to say and I say it. I'm just a mouthpiece. I'm not anyone special. I work a 9-to-5 job just like anyone else. I'm not, I'm just a dude talking to a dude.
Indeed. What is your basically a daily practice right now? To a degree you can share. Or what are you up to now?
Work. I busy myself in my work. And when I get home, I'm usually too tired to spend any money because I don't have an expensive lifestyle. My lifestyle is super humble. As long as I can afford to keep the lights on and candles and incense and stuff, and support my children, I'm content. Really, like the heavenly palaces and all that stuff. If that stuff is bestowed upon you, good. I congratulate you. But everything is as it should be. There are levels to this. Everyone at their own pace and level. If you try to go too fast, you may crash into a brick wall or something else that is hazardous to yourself. Just try not to go too fast. And yeah, that's just advice. Anyway, everyone should do what they want. And I agree as far as the war on drugs, which is an unwinnable war, in my opinion. I agree. People should be allowed to kill themselves with drugs. So let the weak members of our society shoot their dope and kill themselves, and let the rest of us that actually want to evolve go to the ascending worlds, go to the superior worlds.
So basically, I have my own stance on the matter, which is the government is the main drug dealer. The government organizes cartels, and the government organizes the police. So it is all one big thesis, antithesis, synthesis scheme, right? And I really am disgusted by people who do not understand that the cartels are agents of the government and that the government allows them to operate to the degree they do. Which makes perfect sense considering that the Mexican cartels are armed with American weapons, which are usually smuggled across the Mexican border, which is the most terrifying part of this story. But fundamentally, there is a question I would ask you, because that's something you are involved in heavily. How one can use magic to create a better world?
Well, if you're against police and law enforcement, if you need your ass saved or you're in trouble, don't call us. I mean, don't call any law enforcement agency. Handle it yourself.
I am not against police because police has to exist. I was asking which rituals can be used to improve the state in the world, as well as physical action.
I mean, we got kids, dude. Like, we need safe neighborhoods. We need these are things that everybody needs, or something else will eat you. Everyone needs space and air to breathe and room to grow in safety. So, what do you think? What do you think a law enforcement officer is? He's an accuser. Let me tell you a little bit about Samael and how he trains his troops. Samael is the cop that pulls you over. Samael is the one who turns the key to your cell if you have to go in one for acting like an animal. Samael is the judge that you face when you go to court. Samael is the breaker of chains, the opener of doors, etc., etc., etc.
I agree with you that he is a cosmic policeman. I agree with that.
All these things. You can't. That's the thing. You can't judge or limit Samael. You can, like.
I know. I just one of his functions. So, basically, can you, for the sake of this show, share with us some of your experience with Samael and Belial and how they relate?
Yeah, they made me work out till I threw up, and they made me get up and start working out again. I've gotten, Samael, one of its epithets is the bitter beverage seducer. And I've gotten drunk till I fell down and I got back up and started getting drunk again. Look, you can get drunk on the word of God. You cannot consume alcohol at all. You could just find some books and start reading them and consuming this knowledge at a pace that you're not ready for. And you could literally get drunk on the word of God and be a zealot. That being said, let me give you another story. So, and I'm not going to say Jew, I'm going to say Semitic peoples. So, as you know, I attempted to convert since there was a failure to convert. I could not convert for powers that were greater than my own. There was a failure to convert, therefore, Ehye, Asher, Ehye. Anyway, back to zealotry. So so this is how it usually goes, and I'm talking about back in tribal Israel times. There was one of the tribes of Israel. So this is how it works. There's a leader of the tribe, or one who's appointed over that specific area, or king. They get anointed as king of that tribe, and this is how it works. This is the floor plan to their. It looks like a solar system. So the king would be in the middle as the sun, and its security would be the first ring around that, and the rest of the priests class would go out from that. So one of these tribes, and I'm not going to name the tribe because I'm not going to point at people, because that's how people get killed. One of these tribes were walking through Moabite territory, who's the Lord or Baal of Moab, in common tongue, Belphegor, whatever. So they were walking through that territory, and Semitic peoples, they like to shop. So the king of the tribe was searching for a prostitute because, Semitic peoples, they like to shop. And he went up to one of the Moabite madams and said, "Can I see your wares?" And she said, "First, darling, you have to worship my idol." And he's like, "What is this idol?" And she said, "Look, this idol, wear it around your neck and you could see my wares." So the king proceeded to put the idol around its neck. It was a bull god. And she showed the king her wares, and he picked one, and they went back to his tent. Security was set up, the priest class, everything was set up overnight. In the act of copulation, the king was with his girlfriend, and a zealot got a hold of a spear, cast the cloak of the triple goddess over him, and went through the security, went through the priest class, and killed the king and his girlfriend twice by impaling her through the vagina, him through his balls, picked them up, took them out of the tent. They were both still alive. He killed them twice because, first, of embarrassment, dead. Second, they both bled out. This zealot should have been arrested on the spot. But there's one thing that someone doesn't like, it's promiscuity. And the zealot was just walked away after he killed Big Daddy of that tribe. So.
Okay, so one of the last questions for tonight or for this show is, how can we build up a relationship with the source? Which prayers to use, which procedures in your experience?
Oh, with the source? You're a part of the source. You're directly connected to it. You don't need me as a middleman. You have a direct connection.
I know, but I wanted to ask for some techniques for how to do it.
Off the top of my head, if you don't know some of the these are nicknames. If you don't know some of the names of God, okay, I'm going to give a free one here. This one's hard to say. And that, I'm not just making that shit up. That you can get that off of our Elyon channel. He says it real quick once, and so that's I gave one of the elevated names. Oh, so I'll give two, and I already gave these names before, but as we know, Metatron or Eunuch or Enoch, has 70 names that we know of. One of its names is Bizbul. Another one of his names is Joel or Yoel. Another one of his names is what? Yeah, so that I was allowed to give two. These names are available in books and in the internet. I'm not giving out anything secret or hidden or new here.
Okay, okay. So how should one meditate?
Oh,
on
I'll
the
give
divine
one more. I'm
name?
sorry to interrupt you. Akatriel. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I wanted to say how one should meditate on the divine names.
You could look at a good grimoire. I would suggest people to look at. I haven't found a physical copy of it. Is Grimoire of the Shem, which it gives you all of the Empyrean angels of the Shem Hamaforosh. So it tells you the opportune times to work with them. It gives you images of them that you can meditate on. It gives you psalms, because you can call them with verses of the psalms. And people think these are Bible verses. The Bible's too heavily coded. You have esoteric and exoteric mysteries, and the surface level stuff, it's just too coded. The allegories, it's just too codified. And the energies that you emit, the waveforms that you're sending out and waiting for, there's a slight time delay by chanting the Psalms. Just chant the Psalms. And you have Psalms of Esau. And who's Esau? It's Asaph. It's the one who was the twin of Jacob, the evil twin, or so they say. Asaph is it's what's his face again. But they have Psalms of Asaph. And if you are a fan of the Edomite kings or Edom, you would look for the Psalms of Asaph. And if you ask any Orthodox Semitic person, they're like, "Oh, Asaph is the enemy. Asaph is the enemy," just because he's the son of Samael. Asaph is Cain. And
Yeah,
Sarah said, why does this birth hurt so much? And God said, because you have two nations warring within your womb.
yes, Esau is the descendant of Cain in a spiritual sense.
Yeah, and if you look at Esau in Arabic, it's Isa, which is Isa alayhi salam, which is Yeshu again, who is again the one who defends the United States of America in Shemaim by virtue of his father, Samael. Whoa,
Yes,
okay. So you mean Cain, Esau, Jesus, the son of Samael? Yes, folks. And if you didn't know that by now, well, you heard it here first.
yeah, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but yes, it is an old
It's
rabbinic
Cain. It's Cain.
created a lot of controversy, especially in the Middle Ages. Catholic Church didn't like this theory.
Look,
Anyway,
let me tell you something about Yeshu. All right. So this is first temple period. Okay. Yeshu was like the first Torah Taliban. All right. So him and just one of his guys went and raided the temple, and they were both armed with swords. So the temple guard, Yeshu Hanatzi, or Natsrite, which means Nazarene. In Hebrew, it's Hanatsrite. Yeshu raided the temple. Immediately the temple guard, they're well versed in sword play, immediately disarmed Yeshu. His best guy, Simon the Zealot, chopped off the guard's ear, and the guard immediately submitted. So what were I thought they were supposed to be fishermen. What were they going, sword fishing? No, they raided the temple and took it over. And let me tell you a little bit, and that's just a little bit about Simon the Zealot and Yeshu. Let me tell you a little bit about did I want to talk about? It escaped me. We'll save it for next time.
Okay, so last question for tonight is how somebody can come into contact with the Metatron consciousness.
With who?
Metatron consciousness. Metatron.
Oh, your unconsciousness?
I said Metatron consciousness.
Oh, Metatron. You could look up the names of Metatron. You could start chanting them. I wouldn't advise it, but you can if you want. I mean, yeah, go ahead. Knock yourself silly. Look, you could say all the names of God until you're blue in the face, and you know what will happen? You probably get blue in the face.
Yes, those energies are really intense. Okay. Thank you all guys for watching this video.